Okay, on my version, I'll have the syllabus pulled up on an electronic copy if y'all ever see the YouTube video later. So I won't be actually flipping through a piece of paper like y'all have. Okay, so this course is English 2323 Britlit 2. You don't have to have had Britlit 1 to take Britlit 2. This class takes place in class on Greenville in GCE 127, which is the room I'm in right now, and in Sulphur Springs, room 107, which is where they are right now. How fun. I am Mr. Nichols, and the best way to contact me is through email. And there's my email right there. I have an office phone number, but it's basically like there because they make me put it there. I'm not probably the best person on the phone. I have trouble remembering things I hear only. Usually if I can talk to you face to face, I can at least put your face with the words you're saying. But if it's just on the phone, I'm having to like take notes on a notepad just to remember anything. But hopefully you never have to call me. Email is just the best way to get in contact with me. And then class website, it's going to be Blackboard. Everything's going to happen on Blackboard. The schedule that I have down here, rather than just put the time when our class meets, I've put where I am at all times, basically, when I'm on campus. So you see I've got 2 classes Monday, Wednesday. I've got 4 classes on Tuesday, Thursday, and I have to come from one classroom to another one on Tuesday, Thursday. So I might not be in here very early every day, or I might be in another one like a little later, get out of there real early and come over here. You never know. Like today, I think I was trying to grade a couple of little minor assignments that had been turned in my office before I came down here, but that's why I put that I'll be in the office. You have a question? Okay, I guess I just heard a noise. Okay, so I heard a noise. I'm also here on Fridays from 10:30 to 2, at least in my office. I'm also elsewhere. It says technically there are 2 required texts for the course. I don't have the second one with me. The only one I have right now is the Norton Anthology of English Literature, and it should be the 9th edition, major authors. You could also have the second half of the 9th edition that's split into 2 versions, but I think that the one that they should have here is this one. This one. Now I'm recording in 2 different places at once. It's going to really throw me off. So you'll see that I talk to myself a lot as well. I apologize for that. Sulphur Springs becomes confusing if whether I'm talking out to the video, to you, or to myself. So I apologize in advance. We're going to be using this extensively. It's possible that you could find these online, but a lot of times the translations of the versions aren't as good if they're online. The line numbers could be wrong, so this is going to be really helpful. It's got the page numbers and everything too in the syllabus for this one, so that's the best. It does have the Hacker and Summers Writer's Reference, the one they use for English 1301 and 1302, listed on here as a text, but some of you took that so long ago you don't have that anymore. It's really mainly for MLA help. So I mean, I think that it's possible you could get by in this course without it if you don't already have it. I don't necessarily know that you would need to buy it again, especially if you've rented it in the past. I think that the most important thing is the literature textbook. Now, materials, anytime I give out handouts, you're required to keep all handouts that are received. So additional supplies, make sure you have a blue or black ink pen, pencil, notebook, paper, if we have class work that day, like in class. And now computer access, you are required to have access to a computer, whether it's on campus or at home. You will need a computer for access to the internet for Blackboard, research, and email. Occasionally you might need a printer. I haven't got a word yet as to whether we'll have to have a research paper peer review in this class. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't, it depends. But we may need that for one day this semester. Otherwise, though, we won't need a printer. I know it sounds really harsh. I'm not responsible for your lack of access to these items. Whoa. Sounds pretty mean, huh? But I'm not mean. Also, for your safety, I'd suggest you always have a USB drive for saving materials. Writing papers without saving them is foolish. And keep in mind, you can also email a paper to yourself or use Dropbox, Google Drive, OneDrive, even iCloud, despite its difficulties, etc. I hate those emails that I get where it's always the night before papers due where somebody's computer hard drive has crashed. You wouldn't believe, like, more students have hard drives that crash than any other person, like, in the world. Like, I've never seen people have hard drives crash more than in classrooms, which is strange. But I guess it's real. It can't be that people are just trying to get more time on a paper. Now, the purpose of the class, I could tell you that. And on the next page, I could read to you the catalog description, the foundational component area, the required core objectives, learning outcomes, and the learning outcomes. My guess is that you're more interested in this satisfying your humanities credit. So I'm not going to read all that stuff. And you all know it's Brit-Lit. If you want to take Brit-Lit, you're here for Brit-Lit. So here we are. Grading policy is where I'll go instead. I think it's a fairly simple grading policy compared to those who maybe have had me in the past, where things are all kind of weird percentage-wise. But everything is 10% with the exception of the research paper, which is 20%. So it's worth slightly more than the other papers. There will be 2 synthesis analysis essays, 1 critical evaluation essay, which is worth double of those, and the research paper, which is worth double the critical evaluation. So they kind of ramp up in intensity, I guess, over the course of the semester. There is a midterm and a final. Each are worth 10%. That's up from previous semesters. So those of you who have taken it before, the midterm and final are worth more since this is a literature course. And the presentation that you do with the planning, you basically propose your paper to me before you turn it in, and then the presentation combines with that grade for 10%. That's a pretty easy grade. And there's also discussion posts and quizzes, which I'll explain later and more in detail next time. And then in-class discussion participation is worth more than usual at 10% because I really like it when people discuss the literature in this class. And I'm assuming this is the microphone that I have for myself, whereas that's the microphone that's meant for the rest of you. And they both work?
That one works for sure. This one's
Mine works for sure. That one is being weird, I have. The button doesn't do anything. I could look into that and see if it's...
Okay, we can't hear you.
I didn't look hard at it.
Oh, I know what happened. Okay, so I'm going to ask you not to push that button on the microphone. What's your name again? Blake. I think when you hit that button on that microphone, it knocked out my audio and muted this one.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So let's be honest, guys, in Silver Springs, I was just jibber-jabbering for like 30 seconds while it was muted, so you didn't miss anything important. I was basically telling them how to use the microphones, and then it messed up the microphones. So we're just never going to do that again. We're going to like not push that button. Does that sound good?
Okay, good.
Good. Yeah, we'll keep that from happening. So that's the gradebook setup or the grading setup. In terms of assignments that you turn in, all the essays need to be done in MLA style and submitted on Blackboard. The 2 synthesis analysis essays are going to be written in first person, but the other essays are in third person. And you submit them on 11:59 p.m. on the date listed. I don't accept emailed or printed assignments. They have to be done on Blackboard, which I think most people are familiar with at this point if you've made it this far in classes. Now let's move on to attendance. The first paragraph doesn't apply to many people, so I'm not going to read it. It's like if you're in basketball or music, drama, that kind of thing. So if it does apply to you, go ahead and read that paragraph. But each student's allotted 4 absences. Grade drops 1 letter for every absence past 4. So the highest you can get if like you have 6 absences is an 80 because that's 2-letter grades off. And you have to return work to me within 1 week of the date of absence. So just keep that in mind. I will count you absent if you miss 15 total minutes of a class meeting, regardless of whether it's the beginning, middle, or end. So if you come in way, way late, I'm not going to act like you've been here the whole time, or even really late. I think of it like if you go to the movie theater and like you miss 30 minutes of the movie, it doesn't make a lot of sense, when you're watching it. After that, like you got to see that 30 minutes in order to make sense. So kind of like the same with a class. If you miss 15 minutes in the middle, the beginning, end, you're going to be trying to piece together what the heck's been happening since you've been gone. So that's kind of why I do that. I had one student one semester a long time ago who that class was structured where we learned everything in the first 15 minutes, then put it into practice the last hour. And she missed the first 20 minutes of every class because she took her kids to daycare, I think. And then at the end of the semester reported to my superiors that I didn't teach them anything. And I was trying to rack my brain figuring out what the heck was going on there. And I went, oh, it's that girl who was late every day. I never taught her anything. Like, she showed up 20 minutes late. So that's one of the reasons I have that in place now. At 7 absences, regardless of grade, student will fail the course. But I do have a flexibility paragraph, and basically what it says is that no matter what the situation, if you think you're going to have to be absent for some reason because something's popped up in your life, just let me know what that is. Keep me informed. Never just stop showing up. I can't stand that. Like, when a student just stops showing up, there's a lot of people in a class, and often I'm not going to get, personally hurt if you stop showing up. But I think people think that, if I show up, he'll start judging me. So I'll just stay at home and never come back. And I'm not like that. The best example I have of this is, like, I had one student one semester, and she and her husband both had a car. He worked, and she went to school. But his car broke down, so he needed her car to go to work. So she ended up having to miss a month because it took a while to get paid, get the car fixed. And she said, I'm going to be out indefinitely. And I said, well, just keep up with the PowerPoints, which we don't have a lot of PowerPoints here. It's all class discussion. But I also said keep up with the work. So you could always keep up with discussion posts, quizzes, the essays. You'll see the assignments posted on Blackboard that you could download and do them. And she ended up making an A in the course because she kept up with all the work despite having to miss that time. And that's possible for anybody. As long as you keep me informed, I will allow certain concessions. Now, if you say I can't come for like 2 weeks because I'm going to Chicago for Comic-Con, I'm like, I don't know, like what is, like, that's not an okay absence, like, for that, and especially since those students usually have already missed 4 classes before that, and then they were like, I gotta go to Comic-Con, I can't do anything about this. Well, yeah, you can, just don't go. Financial aid. And I'm not being judgy. I go to Comic-Con in Dallas every year, so it's not like me being like, I can't stand Comic-Con people. I just mean, like, there are better things to miss class for. Financial aid, make sure that the best way to go and use financial aid at college is to go full-time, meaning 12 hours a semester. Even better is 15. You'll get out in 4 years, all the way with your university degree. I'm not 100% sure on this, but I think that even if you use a half semester of aid, that counts as a full semester in terms of how many semesters you'll get total. I could be wrong about that, but I think it's probably possible you could use up almost all your semesters of aid just at your associate's degree if you only take 2 classes a semester. So it's best to kind of stretch that as far as possible. And I may be wrong. They may have changed that since I first put this in here, and financial aid doesn't count that way anymore. Like, every time you use a half semester of aid, it only counts a half semester of aid. But it does mean it's still, even with that, you can only use 144 hours. So if you fail some classes or change your major, that could significantly impact your ability to have enough aid for school, because you need to make it to 120 hours to graduate. And withdrawing from even a couple of classes or failing means you have to redo them, and that would be bad. Now, limit on drop classes. You can only drop 6 courses at any Texas public institution. So if you drop 6 here, you can only that's also going to carry over to like A&M Commerce. You say, oh no, I dropped 6. They won't let me go to PJC anymore. I'll just go to A&M Commerce instead. They'll say, no, you've already had 6 drops. You have to go to like a private school. I think that you can still go to a private school with those drops. But then, I don't know any people who are like, oh man, I dropped out of PJC. I guess I'll go to Baylor instead. Like, I don't know anybody who's in that financial situation. So, be careful there. Now, last date to withdraw from this class is April 13th. And the withdrawal policy, if you stop coming, we're not going to drop you. You just get an F grade. So, keep that in mind. Academic honesty requirements. I think that I have to read this one verbatim, so I'm going to. In the pursuit of learning, students are expected to engage in honest academic endeavors to the highest degree of honor and integrity. By registering and taking this course, the officially enrolled student declares that he or she will be the author for all work submitted for the course. Allowing another student to complete assignments for you constitutes fraud and academic dishonesty. Submitting an assignment already submitted in another course, and it's in whole or in part, even if it was the same course but in a different semester, is not permitted. For example, we have a poem that's in this semester, and a few of them that were in this semester and in English 1302. Love Song of J. Alfred Proof Rock. You couldn't take the same essay you wrote for 1302 and also turn it in for 2323. You have to do new stuff. We don't permit cheating on exams also, obviously. Should such behavior come to the attention of the instructor, and that's whether that student committed an infraction intentionally or unintentionally. So if you weren't noticing that someone else was cheating off of you, it's also partly your responsibility that you should have been covering your work or not being like, hey, look. The instructor will implement appropriate penalties, such as a 0 for the assignment, an F for the course, or referral to disciplinary committee. Because it's very hard for me to tell who cheated. I can only tell that cheating has happened. So I have to, be equal there. Also, failure to utilize MLA parenthetical documentation for sources, including borrowing or using information without giving credit to the source, will constitute plagiarism. And also keep in mind that if you turn in your research paper at the end of the semester and you don't have a works cited or internal citation, either one is missing, I can't tell that it's not plagiarism until those things are provided. So I'll give you a 0 until you've provided those things, then I'll grade it. So just keep that in mind when you're submitting. Just if you do a rush job and you don't get your works cited on there, then I'll say, well, it's a 0. Please turn it in with it so I can grade it. Email response time. If an email is sent Monday to Thursday, expect within 24 hours. If it's sent over the weekend, expect an answer on Monday. I'll still try to check on the weekend, but I can never make guarantees on the weekend, so that's why I like to leave that the way it is. Technical difficulties. There is access to computers at Greenville Center's library and also Sulphur Springs Center's library. I'm not as familiar with the new Sulphur Springs Center. I think it's still in the library, right? Or do you all have a dedicated computer lab?
There's a computer lab.
Oh, okay, cool.
And there's some.
And what?
And there's some in the library too.
Oh, good. It's just like here. That's awesome. Okay, so y'all have got access wherever you are. And also basic computer requirements on your own computers. If it's manufactured in the last 5 years, that's pretty good. You also will probably need some access to this course for Microsoft Word. I suggest having a flash drive, USB drive, And Microsoft Word, there are alternatives. You could use Apache OpenOffice, I've heard can work. If you have an Apple computer, first of all, I'm sorry. Second of all, Pages you can also do work on. But it involves probably going on YouTube and figuring out how to create a Word document from Pages on Apple computers, and then there'll be somebody there who's done a tutorial for how to do it. It's a very simple, though. I think it's just file, export, PDF, file, export, Word. Those are the two options, because Blackboard will accept Word format and PDF, and as long as you can get it saved and submitted in that format, it should work. Food and drink. No food and drink allowed in class. The only exception is water in a bottle. This will be my one hypocrite thing. A lot of teachers will have a coffee, but I don't have coffee. I have a soda in a straw with a koozie. Basically one of the manliest things you can do in life. It's my only access to caffeine. I don't drink coffee, so that'll be me. Especially though, food. It's hot food. People hate you if you bring hot food to a class because they can smell it. They want it. I got angry at the restaurants over there the other night because I came out of this building after registration was over and I could smell like El Phoenix and Cotton Patch, the food they were cooking wafted over to the PJC building. And I was very irrationally angry at the restaurants over there for cooking and making me smell it a mile away. Very strange. I don't think they have that problem at Sulphur Springs. Y'all's building is so far away from any restaurants, right? Right. Not like that's a real issue we need to tackle or anything. I don't know why I'm even asking. Now, disruptive behavior, I haven't had a problem with that. If you're disruptive, you'll be asked to leave for the initial disruption. If it occurs again, you'll be dropped. I mostly reserve this for if somebody starts a fight, like a physical fight in a class. That's what I would consider to be a disruption. And then, of course, if you start a second fight in another class, that we're going to drop you. That's pretty reasonable, right? Cell phones, though, can be disruptive. You really kind of need to set priorities in order to succeed. If you feel your cell phone's a higher priority than instruction and can't resist checking it during class, it'll become disruptive behavior as outlined previously in the syllabus. So I'm not actually ever going to call you out for having your cell phone out the whole time. But if I notice that you're always on your cell phone, it's not like a thing I'm going to write down or even keep track of. It's just I'll slowly over time start to subconsciously hate you. And there's nothing I can do about that. It's like an emotional thing when you see somebody who's not paying attention to you, lack of respect. And I can't promise I'm not going to have those human feelings. So, let's say we have a situation where you're Nichols, something happened. I know I've missed 4 classes, but could I turn this paper in late, And then I'll be thinking, if you've not been on your phone, I might be yeah, sure, turn it in late, no big deal. But you're on your phone every day. I might be well, can I let them turn it in late? I don't know. I got this very rational reason why they shouldn't, and I just might, come up with some excuse in my head. I hope that I don't do that. I hope I'm very equivalent in terms of everybody. But, I mean, I may not. You never know. I can't promise I won't be a human being. I have feelings and thoughts and emotions just like all of you, as much as I might want to be a machine. I don't really want to be a machine. I don't want people to think that I would like to prefer to be a machine. That's not at all what I meant. Related statements. I think that I have to read this and the ADA statement verbatim as well, so I'll go ahead and do that. As an open-door community college, Paris Junior College provides a comprehensive experience meeting the educational and cultural needs of all students and citizens of Paris and the service area. It is assumed that all students in this class will have received a high school diploma or a GED, regardless of whether or not you have. Therefore, instruction will be at the high school level or above, including both difficulty and maturity. Now, the ADA statement says, services for students with disabilities are coordinated by the Counseling and Advising Center. The institution is committed to assisting qualified students as completely as possible. Services include the arrangement for accommodations and services to allow equal access to education opportunities for students with disabilities. Students with disabilities are encouraged to contact a counselor or advisor from the Greenville Center, 903-454-9333, or Silver Spring Center, 903-885-1232, to arrange an appointment to begin the process. I think at this point, since we're in the sophomore level, if you needs those kind of accommodations, you could contact the office and let them know if you haven't already. But and mostly at this point, people have already contacted them if they need to, and you may have to get them updated for each classes that you have in a new semester. But other than that, hopefully people have started that. And if not, if you think that there may be something you could go and get contact and help for, go ahead and call those numbers. Now, what to expect from this course? This will be familiar for students who've had me before, but not for students who haven't. This is a literature course, and one of the biggest problems I have in a literature course, especially ones that are discussion-based, and those who had me for English 1302, lots of PowerPoints, lots of terminology, but this class is not like that, which I think may be music maybe to the ears of Sulphur Springs, because I think I've heard that PowerPoints are extremely hard to read on ITV. Is that correct?
Sometimes, yes.
Maybe. I don't know. I've not. Sometimes they are. Well, this class is mostly going to be discussion based, and if nobody talks, I talk, and that's generally what happens. But the discussion posts are designed so that before we've done the readings in class each week, you will post a discussion post of your original thoughts on whatever it is that we've read that week. Maybe one of the poems, a story if we've done a story that week. It's mostly going to be poetry. And you'll give your original thoughts, and it's about 100-word original post. And for reference, 100 words is about the size of the synthesis analysis paragraph below. You can kind of see at the bottom of the page there. That's about 100 words. So you give your original thoughts on one or two of the poems, depending on how long it takes you to get to 100 words. And then after you've done your original post, it'll let you see other people's original posts, and you can go and reply to them and their thoughts on the literature. So the midterm and final paragraph you see on the next page, that short paragraph is about 50 words, and that's how long I want replies to be. Actually, a little bit even less than that, maybe 3 lines instead of 4. But Blackboard, when you make a post, it'll tell you the word count, so you'll know how many words you've written and if you have further to go. The point of these is so that you've developed some original discussion on the literature before you've come to class. That way, when you come to class, you'll have already thought about these before and can mention your thoughts. Have some talking points to go over. Otherwise, it just ends up being me talking, and I'll be honest, I like the things I have to say at times. So I don't have a problem with talking if I have to, but I really like hearing what other people think, and then us kind of having a discussion about that, because that's where learning really happens, not so much in me giving you things that you write down and remember, but in coming to our own critical thinking on a topic and using logic and argument and all that kind of stuff to really come to what we think. And I think that that's interesting. I don't just want people to record the words that I say and then reproduce them later as their own thoughts. That's very boring to me. So Blackboard quizzes are very straightforward. They're just multiple choice quizzes that happen on Blackboard after we've talked about readings in class. So the discussion posts happen the week before we've talked about some readings in class, and the quiz happens after we've already talked about them. In-class discussion participation, hopefully, since we've done discussion posts, you'll be prepared to talk in class about the literature. That'd be fantastic. So excited about that. And there's no need to be afraid to speak as long as you can justify an opinion. I tend to feel that opinion's valid. You'll especially hear me get to poems, I think, where I'll say, I hate this poem. But it's considered, great literature. It doesn't mean I don't think it's not great literature. I just completely disagree with what it's trying to say and how it's trying to say it. And I'm very curious at times as to what your thoughts are. If you liked it and you thought, well, Nichols, you've completely misunderstood it. And often I've changed my opinions on stuff. Well, let's not say often. That might be a lie. But many times I've changed my opinions completely on a work of literature, mostly when people have written essays that explain in detail. But in discussion points in class, I've gone, oh, I've never noticed that before. And then I incorporate that into my understanding of it. The essays, 2 census analysis papers, they're not very difficult. They're almost like expanded discussion posts where you're kind of just showing what you think is interesting about one of the works of literature, and then you're relating it to your own personal experiences as a way of explaining to me why you think what you think about something. It's a little tougher, I think, in this Brit-Lit class sometimes to make that happen because a lot of these concepts they're talking about can be quite philosophical at times, and there may be things you've never really put a lot of thought into before or noticed, and you may be like, well, I don't know how that relates to my life. Like my life is, normal everyday things, not, thinking of the nature of thought and how we have thoughts and how, the past is the past and we can never go back to it. Like I've never even thought about that before. So, who knows? But Wordsworth is coming, and he's going to be talking about that. Now, the critical evaluation, of course, I'll assign these later and give you more detail on these assignments, but the critical evaluation is basically the opposite of a synthesis analysis. It's a very close, focused, almost dissection of one piece of a work of literature, whether a line from a long poem or a word from a small poem as to how it contributes to the greater meaning of the work. I'm not asking you to talk about yourself at all, and that one just be completely objective and analyze. But you'll see the full assignment sheet later when I pass it out. Midterm and final, pretty self-explanatory, Scantron. The research argumentation essay, you could start thinking about this right now as soon as you start reading works of literature because, I'll be honest with you. This is a doozy of an assignment, and when I assign it later, you'll be like, whoa. And the toughest part is just figuring out what to do for the assignment. After that, you kind of have it set and you just write it. But I ask you to basically take the themes, thoughts, philosophies, ideologies from the poetry and other works of literature in the course and apply that to some real-world situation to see if what we've learned or could learn from the poetry or the work of literature could help fix some greater problem in society. And those who've done it before are pretty hard. Yeah. I think it's harder to come up with it than it is to actually write it. Once you've got it, and then you just write the paper. That's the thing, is it's coming up with the idea. And so I'm kind of trying to mention just the idea of this to you in the beginning. That way you can start thinking as soon as you start reading, and you'll maybe come up with something over the course of the semester. But I won't assign it in full until later, week 8, day 2. So you've got a lot of time before I even assign that. A sample paper from the past, yes?
Can you repeat what the topic is?
The minuscule version. It's kind of right here in probably the third sentence, but I say, I have everyone choose a modern day situation or problem that the themes or situations from one of our literary works could help solve or analyze. So that's kind of like, I guess, the broken down into one sentence version. And then it's got a sample thesis for that. Hopefully people who took 1302 remember the minister's black veil. If not, it's a story about a minister who shows up one day wearing a veil on his face, tells nobody why, and they all kind of start to judge him for that. Has anybody heard of the Westboro Baptist Church? They're the people who go to military funerals and hold signs that say God hates fags, regardless of whether or not it was a homosexual who died. So this guy figured out he could relate that story, Minister's Black Veil, and the way those people in that town were hypocrites always judging the minister, to the way that the Westboro Baptist Church were judging everybody else who's not them by saying God hates fags at the funerals, yet being highly inappropriate not only in the real life situation there, but also in the story. So that's a complicated relationship that person had to come up with on that essay. But I was like, it blew me away, and I was like, whoa, crazy. I also think that this essay, if you ever wanted to go on to an institution, not just like commerce, but maybe if you wanted to go into a grad program, you had to provide a sample of your writing. That's a great essay for a writing sample. Anybody who goes into a grad program, maybe if they read that essay, they'd be like, how'd they come up with this? This is crazy. And then you don't have to give them the topic that you wrote about, so they'll just think you just came up with that. They'll be like, this person's a genius. And that's what you want when you turn in writing samples, like get into a grad program or like a Baylor. Or because I do remember that some of my students that have gone to Baylor have had to provide writing samples. Does anybody know? Nobody. Did I have a question? I thought I saw a hand, but I didn't address it because I wanted to finish first. No? Maybe I saw it in Silver Spring. Did y'all have a hand up over there?
No.
Okay, cool. If y'all ever think of raising your hand, I know I said I'm a visual person, but I'd prefer you guys just shout out, hey, Nichols,
Okay.
I have something. Okay, cool.
Okay.
I'm glad we've established rules. Okay, we also have a presentation after the research paper's been turned in. It's in the 15th week, just before the final. And that presentation is so easy. And Silver Springs, if you're curious as to how that presentation will work, my answer is, I don't know. I have no clue. We'll figure it out when the time comes. I may even come over there and just watch y'all give your presentations in person. Who knows? I mean, I'm not 100% sure exactly how it's going to work yet, but I will figure a way around how to make that work. Now let's see. The next page is revision. I'm not going to read that whole page out loud, but we have a synthesis analysis essay, 2 of them. We have a critical evaluation essay and a research paper. Those add up to 40% of your grade. And I'll let you revise every one of those. And what I mean by revision is some teachers will say, hey, you could revise this paper for an extra 5 points or an extra 10 points. But I find that to be very lame because if you revise a paper and it was like a 50 before, and now if you turned it in the first time, it would have been a 95. And the teacher says, good job on this paper that would have got a 95 the first time. Here's your extra 10 points. Enjoy your 60. I think that's stupid and does not give anybody the motivation to want to do a revision. So instead, if you revise in my class, I'll give you the full credit of the assignment if you actually earn it. So if you write a 50 paper the first time, excuse me? One more time.
Oh, we didn't finish. The door is open.
So you're going to close the door or?
Yeah, I'm about to.
Okay. I'll wait. I'm a patient guy. I'm cool.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll say that again. I guess that's what y'all want to do is hear it again?
Yes.
Okay. So if you turn in an assignment and you get a 50 on it, and I will let you revise it. So I'll give you some feedback, tell you what I want you to do to fix it. And then if you fix it and you turn it back in, let's say the paper this time would have gotten a 95 if turned in the first time, then now you have a 95. So whatever grade you get after you revise, that's your new grade. Now, if your grade happens to go down, which has happened in rare cases in the past, I will not lower your grade. I will only ever raise your grade. So it's a risk-free revision. I suggest doing that as often as possible if you think that you don't like the grades that you've gotten. And you can achieve whatever grades you want to achieve if you're willing to work and revise to achieve it. Down below, as a result of this, there's no extra credits assignments in the class. The only way to get extra credit is to revise papers. With the exception of down below, you see the English 23-23 achievement rewards. A long time ago, I noticed that on Xbox, when I was playing Minecraft, there was an achievement if I put a saddle on a pig, go to a really tall mountain, and ride the pig off the mountain on my saddle. And I did it. And I couldn't ever really figure out why I did this. And I realized it was just to get these 5 little gamer score points out of the 16,000 that I have right now. And I was like, why am I wanting to do this? And I realized maybe people just want achievements. So I decided to put achievements into the class based on behaviors that I think would normally make people successful, so that maybe you'll just do these successful behaviors So you can get achievements that are also tied to like bonuses in the class. So you actually get real bonuses that will help. And I named them after Star Wars characters because this is my class and I can do what I want. So you get the Han. That's if you miss no more than 3 classes before week 14, day 1. And if you do that, so that's basically like you've made it all the way to the end of the class without hardly being, not in the picture, and then all of a sudden you're just gone. That's the Han. If you do that, I'll give you only your 5 highest quiz grades. And this Britlit can be kind of hard. So it's nice to have those 5 quiz grades, the top ones, be the ones that count and have that buffer space for, oh crap, I didn't understand Elliot at all. It's good that I have that bonus. So if you try not to miss classes, that'll really help. The Fin achievement is if you submit all 4 essays on time. So if you get them in on time, I will use only your 5 highest discussion post grades. And it's very possible you may forget one here and there. And so that's really helpful to have that for the quizzes and the discussion posts, is to do those 2 behaviors that will help get those achievements. Now, one of the easiest ones to get is just the Kylo, which if you acquire both the Han and the Fin achievements, so if you knock out both Han and Fin, then you get the Kylo achievement. And that will add 10 points to your critical evaluation essay, even if that grade is higher than a 90. If that puts you over the top and you get 100 and something on it, I'll still count that 10 points. And then the Ray achievement, this is probably the hardest one of all the achievements, is to submit all quizzes and discussion posts. That's like to remember every week to submit the discussion posts and quizzes. Then at the end of the semester, I will average, sorry, I just said a bunch of sounds. I will round your final average up to the next letter grade, even if it ends in 7 or 8 and not just 9. So I often will round an 89 up to an A. That's pretty standard. Some teachers are like, I'll round an 89.9 up to an A, and I'm like, that's mean. I'll just do an 89. But I will also do 87, 88 if you have that achievement. So it applies too for like 77, 78. So that really helps like at the end of the semester where maybe your essays just weren't up to snuff, or you weren't understanding the literature, so the quiz grades weren't so great, but you've got like, and I think most people in those situations, if you kept up with the work, then you're in a situation where you're about to make an A at least, and I think that achievement will help just kind of push you up the rest of the way. Rarely have I had somebody who's making a D yet also has the Ray achievement. It's very uncommon if somebody hasn't been doing the discussion post yet has that. I mean, it isn't making a great grade, but has been doing all the discussion posts. That's not very common, unless they just haven't turned in papers. My suggestion is set up some reminder in your phone, because week after week you'll need to do these quizzes and discussion posts. I don't know if anybody's got an iPhone. I don't know what Android's version of this is, but Siri's gotten really smart over time. And like I can do this. Hopefully y'all can hear this over. You'll hear me talking. That's all you have to hear in Silver Springs. But I can say, hey Siri, remind me at 9 p.m. every Sunday night to do my discussion posts and quizzes for British literature.
Okay, I'll start reminding you.
In case you didn't hear Siri, she said, okay, I'll start reminding you. So now it's got a reminder set up for every single Sunday. At 9 p.m. it's going to remind me to do my discussion posts and quizzes. So my suggestion is setting up some kind of reminder in your calendar just to keep you on track there. I mean, it'll be in the Blackboard calendar, which I've heard people use, but I've never actually used it myself, so I don't really know what that's like. But having personal updates set on your phone, I think, is one of the easiest ways to keep up with that these days. Is there any questions about achievements or revisions? Yes?
It's not really like a question, but it's more of like mentioning how hard it is to get a 100.
How hard to get a 100 on what?
Like an essay.
Yeah, I mean, part of the reason I have like these achievements and also the ability for revision is because I'm not likely to give hundreds on papers. I mean, I give A's all the time. But to me, like 100's like a perfect paper, like because it's 100%. It's easy on a math test to say, oh, you got the right answer, 100. But to me to say you got the one right answer, like on a paper that's just like, I would feel, morally, I would feel like I'm doing something wrong if I just gave a 100. So I always like reserve those for really special situations. So we would get hundreds in the class, like on an essay, be like, whoa, I did something amazing. And that's kind of it's not something to be scared of. I give 90s all the time. It's just that like when it comes to like giving like a 100, not a common occurrence. I maybe give like 100 in a class per semester on an essay. Above like 95s, I do that quite often, and then A's all the time. So it's not something I don't think to worry about. It's one of the reasons I have like the extra like gimme grades, like the presentation and the in-class discussion, because I want to be able to give you all like the extra like points everywhere else that are easy to get. Any other questions about revision, discussion, achievement, that kind of stuff? I'll be showing how to do some of these assignments next time. Do I have a question over there?
No.
Okay.
Last semester, I talked to you about how, like, on one quiz, you accidentally put, I don't know if you did accidentally, but I told you that you put up 2 attempts, and you said that you might incorporate it. And
Oh, yeah, I completely forgot about that. I had a question about whether or not I mean, it's not that I forgot that you ever said it. I just remembered, like, it just didn't register around the time that I was making the rules for the course. But a student asked if I was going to allow multiple attempts on the quizzes, which I guess I'm still thinking about. I haven't decided 100% if I want to do multiple attempts on the quizzes or not. Pretend like you're just doing one attempt on the quiz for now, and I'll give it some thought. If you want to send me an email as to why logically I should do that, give me a nice logical argument as to why that would be helpful, that I have to read and go back to, as to why you think it would be a good idea to have multiple. And remember, think from my perspective. You need to make it seem like you're learning more, not like I could totally get a higher grade if you gave me 2 attempts. Like, try to make it where like Nichols would be motivated to make you have multiple attempts for a pedagogical, meaning the study of teaching and learning and that kind of thing, reason. But if you can make a justification for me at an email that I can read and kind of think about, I very likely will give you a multiple attempt on but only 2. I would never go above 2 attempts on a quiz. Were y'all able to make out what the question was that I was answering as I started talking?
The multiple attempts on the quizzes?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we got it.
Okay, gotcha. I want to try to be clear to everybody at once. So I'll ask those kind of questions a lot, I think. Or we'll try. Okay, so next page, course updates and communication. I would suggest, since we live in a world of very strange weather these days, going to that getrave.com, log in ParishJC, and setting up for weather alerts. Because, I mean, it's very possible to have like some kind of snowpocalypse in February or flood or something. I don't know. It's very biblical these days in terms of weather. So I'd sign up for those dragon alerts. Now, my canceled classes, I'd say it's important to go to your dragon mail and get it set up for forwarding it to your personal email. If you don't already have your dragon mail address, put in your phone to receive updates, because anytime I email the entire class, like class is canceled, which is a possibility because my wife is pregnant right now, and the baby's supposed to be due basically during final exam week. And since my cousin just had a baby, and it came 5 weeks early, there is the possibility that the baby will come early. I have a feeling that it won't. I have a feeling that it'll come like right around the due date, maybe a week late, and we'll like have to just get this show on the road. But it might happen that sometimes I have to go to some emergency appointment. I hope not. I'm sorry, I just said emergency appointment. I had to go knock on wood. I'm very superstitious when it comes to knocking on wood. Like, if you say something you don't want to happen, you got to go knock on wood before you say anything else, or you risk that thing happening. I apologize, Silver Springs. That must have seemed really weird when I disappeared. Okay. And I still don't really count cardboard as wood, but that was the best I had. Is that real wood? It's too late now. It doesn't matter. I know I wasn't talking about the camera, but the thing the camera's sitting on. So it's very well maybe possible I have to cancel class for some baby-related thing. I just hope not. How often do I cancel classes in a semester? Those who've had me before? Never. Yeah, so don't count on it. It's not a common thing. Email. I want to go ahead and pass around this email list here. I'd like for the students in Silver Springs, if you would please, just to email me at my email address and say, hey, this is Katrina, or hey, is it Ethan?
Yes.
Okay. Send me an email and say this is me, and I'll add it to the email list I have for this class. But for the rest of the people here in Greenville, I'm going to go pass this list around. It's going to start with you and then make its way around back to the front over here. So it's going to go in a horseshoe fashion. But I'd like you to...
We wrote our emails on the paper that you gave us.
Oh, what now?
We wrote our email on the little squared paper that you had us fill out.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. Actually, yeah, when y'all send that back over, I'll have it there, so that'll work fine. Y'all don't have to send me an email if you don't want to. That would be a way that I have it in my address book, just so I have it on file. And those of you in here in Greenville who don't know what the little squared paper is that you hear talking about, it's because y'all haven't received it yet. Y'all will here in a few minutes. But yeah, I do want the email on the list. Yeah, make sure it goes back that way. And print your name legibly and write your email legibly. So Sulphur Springs, if y'all would write it as legibly as possible on that sheet, that'll guarantee that I can reproduce it later if I have to. And the reason I want your personal email is I want whatever it is that comes to your phone that immediately. That's the best way I know I can get in contact with you if it's like some sort of emergency situation. Otherwise, I'll just email you to the Dragon Mail when I contact the whole class. QR codes, there's an app called Red Laser that'll do QR codes, which are those little weird pixelated square things throughout the syllabus. So I really think it's useful on the front page where it'll literally take you directly to my email. It'll like if you QR code that front page on the syllabus, it'll open up your email program on your phone with my email address in the to field, and it'll just ask you to put a subject and an email like body. And so it basically does all the work for you without you having to figure out how to spell my name. It would be strange how many people misspell my name despite it being on the syllabus. It's a very strange occurrence. Now, contacting me, again, I say email is the best way to contact me, but always have like your name, some specific concern, what class you're in, so I can kind of figure out who you are, and also some specifically worded concern, because you wouldn't believe how many emails I get with no name, no mention of a class, and just it says something like, it says here, are we doing anything today? I have work. With no name, no address, and I've got to like start a 15 email process where I'm like, okay, who is this? John. John what? John this. What class you in? This class. What's your concern? Are we doing anything today? And what am I supposed to say? Like, no, this is the only class ever where we decided to just sit for an hour and 15 minutes. I mean, it's a weird question. So always have some specific question that you want asked or something. I tend to respond best to emails that have questions that are asked as well. If you send me an email that says, hey, I won't be there today, I'll kind of log it in my memory, but I'm not going to reply. So keep that in mind. The very last QR code on this QR code page is the next page, Wordsworth Ode, Intimations of Immortality. Depending on how old the book is that you buy, I know it's the 9th edition, right? No, it's the 9th edition, but if you buy a book that was printed a little earlier than others, it won't have Wordsworth's Intimations of Immortality. Some intern, I guess, when going through this book for the new edition, they put the introduction to Ode, Intimations of Immortality, and then forgot the actual ode. So there's an intro to it and says, hey, here's what this is about, and then it moves on to another ode. So if that's the case in your book, and you know it goes right on to like Ode to Duty or Ode to something else, you'll have to use the QR code here. I think I've even got a shortened URL in the syllabus around that week that you needed as well. Now, the calendar of classes, my suggestion for Sulphur Springs is, and probably people in Greenville as well, because I'll be talking about what I see here on my screen, but I would suggest actually pulling up on your phone, if you have it with you, the Blackboard website and going to our class, because the calendar is color-coded there, and I think the color coding is easier for me to explain. I'm not 100% sure that I'm allowed to unhook the computer that's currently hooked up here and then plug in my own computer to show people on the projector, especially since on the projector I currently see Sulphur Springs people, and so that wouldn't really be all that helpful for you, but it is color-coded. So that in the third line there of that paragraph where it says, complete all assignments according to due dates, all assignments must be turned on Blackboard with the exception of midterm and final, which will happen in class, and it says, do not do any discussion posts or papers over any of the works in blue. throughout the calendar, there are works on Blackboard that display in blue, and I don't want you writing about those. For example, in the first week, William Blake's The Chimney Sweeper, The Other Chimney Sweeper, London, I don't want any of those written about. Does it display them in a slightly different pixelation where you can tell the difference in color? I don't think so. It'd be very hard. I would just get online and look at it because it's going to be better there.
They're like a little bit pale.
A little bit paler, but yeah, it's hard to tell. And then I think in the second week readings, week 2 readings, She Dwelt Among the Untrodden Ways and My Heart Leaps Up is in blue. Week 3 readings, Epitaph is in blue, and for the most part, it's not in blue after that. Except all of week 9, day 2's readings are in blue, but Conrad is in green. William Butler Yeats's Leda and the Swan in week 10 is blue. But that's just easy to see on Blackboard if you go there. The way I'll explain how this calendar works is you can see it's always going to talk about what we're doing week 1, day 1, and week 1, day 2, and then week 2, day 1, then day 2. It's easier for my brain to keep track of work that way rather than specific dates, especially since I have some classes that happen on multiple dates. So you can see next time I'm going to assign the census analysis essay, and anytime I assign an assignment, it's in purple and capitalized. Anytime an assignment is due, it's also capitalized and underlined in purple. So that's probably still easy to tell in the black and white version. But if you'll notice every single week, and even if you can't see it in color right now, you'll notice that the first thing we have after it says day 1, day 2, is you'll see a quiz, and on Blackboard that'll appear in red. Red means stop. So you'll always do the quiz first. Then next it'll have a set of readings. You'll do the readings. Then after you've done the readings, you'll do a discussion post. And all that stuff, the quiz and discussion posts are due on Sunday each week before 11:59 p.m. My suggestion is after we talk about the works in class each week, you just go ahead and do the quiz right after class. And then that way on Sunday, you only have to worry about doing the new discussion posts over the new readings. And it always tells you which discussion post to do over which reading. But then the next week, we talk about those readings in class for the whole week. Then you'll do the quiz over those readings we just talked about. Then you'll do a new set of readings, a new discussion posts. And again, we'll have talked about them the next week and so on and so forth. And you'll basically never be doing the quiz and discussion posts on the same day for the same piece of literature. You'll be doing your quiz over what we've already talked about, discussion posts about what we're going to talk about. Any questions about that? I think it becomes second nature after a few weeks. And I'll explain more about how to do the discussion posts next time. I also have, I believe, some videos on Blackboard that explain how to do or videos on YouTube that explain how to do the discussion posts if people wanted access to that immediately. I think if you went to my YouTube links that I have on Blackboard, and I'll add those, I guess, today, a link to my YouTube page, you could see other classes where I've talked about how to do the discussion posts. They're already posted. Now let me see. If we scroll through, you can see that we have Synthesis Analysis 1 is due on week 3, day 1. Synthesis Analysis 2 is due on week 5, day 1. Then I assign the new paper, the Critical Evaluation, which is not due until week 7, day 2, which is the same day of the midterm review. The next day we have, the next class is the class next week, where we have a midterm, and then I'll assign the research argumentation essay. And you can see there's a break of like 4 weeks, including spring break, where we don't actually have any new readings. Because I don't want y'all to read anything over spring break. I do assign the research paper before spring break, though, so y'all can work on it if you want to, but I prefer people just take that break. It's going to be much more mentally healthy to just take your break and enjoy it. Then there'll be readings again. The planning for the paper is due, meaning you propose your thesis to me. Then 2 weeks later, the paper itself will be due. And for the most part, the major work in class is done at that point. There's a few smaller poems for the next week and the final discussion post in week 13. But that's about it. I mean, after that, we just, because I want basically most of the stuff to be done with a few weeks left in class. And then people are getting their last like papers in that maybe they needed to do a revision on, that kind of stuff. All final paper revisions will be done week 14, day 2, where you'll have your second grading conference. I forgot to mention this, but the very first day we come back from spring break is a grade conference where I'll talk to you about your grades, where you're at so far. I think I can do that in Silver Springs even over the camera. Like, I think that I can just, since I've only got the 2 of you, I can have y'all sitting there and I'll talk to you about your grades, and then I'll try to send something over that gives detail as to where you're at that point. Then you'll have your final quiz on week 14, day 2 as well. The very next week after that, week 15, days 1 and 2, is presentations of the research, and then our final exam, if you look down there in both classes, Silver Springs and Greenville, is going to be on Thursday, May 12th at 1 p.m. It'll be Scantron, just like the midterm. You're right. May 12th is a Friday, so it's going to be May 11th. I must have just forgot to change the date from the previous semester, because I did on the other ones. The other Thursday exam says May 11th. So if y'all want to change that right now, please actually change the Thursday, May 12th to Thursday, May 11th, because that's going to be more accurate if you want to show up on the right day. Thank you for that. I can't stand typographical errors, or knowing I've made them. Apparently I can stand them enough to print them. I'll try to change that on the Blackboard calendar as well, since it's live. Now, the very last page is a syllabus contract. It's really just like a quiz followed by you acknowledging that you've received the quiz. And the first question is, when are discussion posts to be completed? Is it the Sunday before we talk about the readings, the same day, or the Sunday after we talk about the readings? What do you guys think? Say it out loud. Before, right, Sunday before we talk about the readings in class. Because I want the discussion post to happen before, so that's going to be A. But then when are the quizzes to be completed? The Sunday before, the same day, or the Sunday after we talk about the readings?
After.
That's right, that's after. Because now we've talked about it, I feel okay giving you a quiz. If you revise, you get up to 10 points, 20 points, or all of them? All. C is correct. And the research argumentation paper, now this is a trick question, directly affects 20%, 25%, or 30% of the total class grade. I'll give you the answer to the trick question. It's actually C30, because you have a presentation and a planning submitted for that research paper that also add 10 more points. So it becomes 30%, not just the 20 for the paper. Because if you haven't done a paper, the presentation's not going to make any sense. And then down below, you'll just print your name on the first blank, sign on the next, date. And that paperless declaration, for the most part, I think I'm just going to put the papers on Blackboard, especially for Silver Springs. I won't send over printed copies of every assignment sheet. I'll just make them available on Blackboard. And here I might print them. I haven't decided. I probably still won't. That way it's consistent and I can keep track of it in my head. After you've signed that, you could go ahead and rip that back page off, pass those to the center. I'll come grab them. In Silver Springs, I don't know exactly who you give papers to that have been completed, because I'm not 100% aware of that.
She told me to just bring them up there to the office.
Okay, well, that'll work. And you can do the same with your info sheet as well.
Okay.
So y'all could go ahead and do that now. Y'all can take, because all I'm going to do for right now in the rest of the class with these guys is hand them out their info sheet that you already have and have filled out. So if y'all wanted to go ahead and take y'all's stuff to the proctor at the front or whomever, that would be fine. But Greenville, y'all stick around. So y'all have a great day, Silver Springs. See you on Thursday.
Thank you.
Sheets, guys. A couple of things I want to mention. They've already filled them out, so I didn't feel like mentioning it to them. But family members box, only tell me what you feel comfortable with. Like if you love your family and you want to let everybody know, tell me names like brother, sister, how old they are, that kind of thing. If you just like, I don't really care, it's a brother, sister, mom, dad. If you love your pets, you want to tell me all about your pets. Like I got your little schnauzer, Gray. Her name is Muffins. Tell me all that kind of stuff. If you want to leave it blank, because you think it's creepy that somebody wants to know about your family, leave it blank. No matter what, I'll know something about you. And then on symbol of you, drawing, you see down below, I don't want you to draw a picture of yourself. I want you to put a symbol that represents you, maybe your beliefs, things that are important to you, your hobbies, that kind of stuff. But put a symbol that represents who you are. In the bottom right corner where it says how I describe my writing, not handwriting. I mean like your ability to put words together to create meaning, not I suck at cursive. That's not what I'm talking about. So y'all can work on that. And I'll come take up the